In the autumn of 1941, a Swiss engineer named Georges de Mestral came home from a walk in the Alps in a foul mood. His dog was covered, nose to tail, in little brown burrs, and so were his own wool trousers. He'd spent the whole walk pulling them off one by one, and still they clung. Most people would have cursed, picked them off by the fire, and forgotten the whole thing by morning. De Mestral put one under a microscope. What he saw stopped him. Not a sticky seed, not a thorn, but a field of tiny hooks, thousands of them, each curved at the tip like a fisherman's barb, catching on the smallest loop of thread or fur and refusing to let go. He spent the next 10 years trying to copy what that weed had done. The textile mills of Lyon laughed him out of the room. He kept going, and when he finally succeeded, he called his invention Velcro. And one day it would fasten the spacesuits of the Apollo astronauts who walked on the moon. The most famous fastener in the world was reverse-engineered hook by hook from a plant most people spend their weekends trying to kill. And here is the part that should stop you the way that Burr stopped de Mestral. That same plant, the one clinging to your dog and your socks and the hem of your coat, is a vegetable prized on the far side of the world, a medicine that European doctors trusted for 400 years, and it is almost certainly growing in the ditch at the end of your road right now, where somebody will spray it before the summer is out. This is Burdock. Welcome to Lost Plant Remedies. You've seen it even if you never knew its name. In its first year it sits low to the ground, a rosette of enormous heart-shaped leaves, dull green on top and soft grey and woolly underneath, some as broad as a dinner plate, sprawling along fence lines and riverbanks and vacant lots and the neglected edges of car parks. In its second year it sends up a tall branching stalk, shoulder high or higher, topped with purple thistle-like flowers that dry into those round hooked burrs that started this whole story. Country people once had 100 names for it: beggar's buttons, cuckoo button, happy major. Most of us now just call it a weed and reach for the sprayer. Cross to Japan and they reach for a knife instead. There, burdock is no weed at all. It is gobo, a cultivated vegetable sold in every supermarket, grown in long sandy beds and pulled up as a slender brown root that can run 3 feet straight down into the ground. They scrub it, slice it fine, and cook it into kinpira and soups and New Year's dishes, prizing it for its earthy, almost sweet flavour and for the way it keeps. A whole nation eats, as an ordinary Tuesday dinner, the exact plant we treat as a roadside nuisance. And inside that root is something the modern world has only recently learned to value. Burdock is one of the richest natural sources on Earth of a fibre called inulin. Inulin is a strange kind of fibre because it is not really food for you, it is food for the trillions of beneficial bacteria living in your gut. It is what nutritionists now call a prebiotic, the thing those good microbes feed on and multiply from, and Japan has been quietly eating it by the plateful for 1,000 years without ever once calling it medicine. They just called it dinner. But dinner, eaten every day for 1,000 years, becomes its own kind of medicine, whether anyone names it or not. Come back to Europe and the story moves from the kitchen to the apothecary. For at least 400 years, from the great herbals of the 1500s down to the country doctors of the 1800s, burdock root was one of the most reached for remedies in the Western tradition. They called it a blood purifier. That is an old phrase, and I want to be honest with you about what it does and does not mean, because this is a channel that respects you enough not to oversell. It does not mean anything a modern laboratory would measure. What the old herbalists meant was that they used the root as a gentle diuretic, and as a long, slow remedy for stubborn skin. For the eczema and boils and slow-healing rashes they believed rose from something gone sour in the blood. A tea of the dried root, taken over weeks, not days, was their standard prescription for a bad complexion and a tired, sluggish system. Modern researchers have since found antioxidants and anti-inflammatory compounds in the root that make the old tradition plausible. But plausible is the honest word, not proven. What is certain is that people trusted it, wrote it down, and handed it from one generation to the next for 20 generations, long before anyone decided it was a weed. There is even a drink you may have tasted that still carries its memory. Dandelion and Burdock, a dark, sweet, old-fashioned cordial, was drunk across Britain for centuries, first as a lightly fermented medicinal tonic made from exactly those two roadside roots, and later as the bottled fizzy soda you can still buy in a corner shop today. The soda outlived the knowledge. Millions of people have swallowed the name of this plant off a label without ever once being told it was growing at the bottom of their own garden. So how does one plant end up a vegetable in one country, a medicine in another, and a nuisance in a third? Not through any grand conspiracy. Nobody banned burdock, nobody had to. It was simply forgotten, partly on purpose and mostly by neglect, the way nearly everything free and useful was forgotten the moment there was a tidier, more profitable thing to sell in its place. A root that took an afternoon to dig became less convenient than a bottle on a shelf. A tea that took weeks to work became less appealing than a pill that promised results by Friday. And the plant itself, tall and coarse and forever grabbing at your sleeve, made an easy villain. It looks like a weed. So we called it one, and we stopped looking. The plant never changed. Only our opinion of it did. If you would like to meet it properly, the part you want is that first-year root, taken from the low rosette before it has thrown up any stalk, dug in autumn or early spring when all the plant sugars are stored underground. It grows long and stubborn and straight down, so a narrow spade and a little patience are the whole toolkit. Scrub it, peel the thin skin, and you can slice it into a stir-fry the way Japan does, or dry it and simmer a small spoonful into a mild, earthy tea the way the old herbalists did. Two honest cautions, because a plant worth eating is a plant worth respecting. First, identification. The young leaves of burdock can be confused by a careless eye with the leaves of foxglove, which is genuinely poisonous, so learn the difference before you ever dig. Burdock leaves are dull and rough with that soft grey woolly underside, and the grown plant carries its unmistakable burrs, which foxglove never does. When in doubt, wait for the burrs, because the burrs never lie. Second, if you are pregnant, or taking water tablets, or on medication for diabetes, speak to a doctor before you make a habit of it, because burdock is a genuine diuretic and can genuinely lower blood sugar. That is not a reason for fear, it is the reason for respect. A plant that can do something real is a plant you treat with a little care. But for most people, on most ordinary afternoons, this is simply the story of a plant we all walked past. A plant that fastened Velcro to a spacesuit that fed Japan and physicked Europe and flavoured a soda your grandparents drank, standing there at the edge of the road with its arms full of burrs, patient as it has always been, waiting for somebody to remember what it is. If you would like to keep remembering plants like this one, subscribe to Lost Plant Remedies, because week after week we go looking for the useful, ordinary, overlooked things the modern world was a little too quick to throw away. And if you would like to make that old dandelion and burdock cordial yourself, fermented the way it was first made, my free 5-day course, The Lost Ferment, is waiting in the description below. It costs nothing. The burrs, after all, never charged anyone a thing.